As the clock strikes 7, the vibes are alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come one, come all, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. Inner Circle podcast where love is well known.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are watching us from today. Welcome to another edition of Inner Circle Podcast, where we bring you great conversation. We bring you thought leaders, change makers, trailblazers. We discuss business. Today is our business segment, and today is it's Wednesday, January 22nd. And today we are going to be discussing business meets politics, right? The Trump effect, right? There was just an inauguration here on Monday, a new administration, a dawn of a new administration. And since Monday, man, it's like there's been there's been a lot happening. So we here in a Circle Podcast want to digest that for our audience, for our community, especially the immigrant community, and how does all of it intersect with what? I mean, small businesses and things like that. His policies, things the new administration is going to focus on. How is that going to affect we, the immigrant community, especially small businesses? Most of us are into small businesses and things like that. So we are expecting a special guest. She's running a little bit late. Her name is Huda Hisley. If you are in Minnesota, familiar with the Broken Bar area, she's a local Minnesota state representative, and she's going to help us, dive into, the political effect of, the Trump administration. How does that all intersect, with business, local business, small business, and everything else, he's been announcing since Monday. So once you join us, we will kind of, get get her in the loop and, get going. But Miss B and myself, my co-host, I'm your host, Abe Kamara. Miss B and myself will get things going, things like that. And then from there, as I said, whenever the state representative join us, we'll loop her in and we'll just get going. So we apologize that she's running a little bit late, but hopefully she'll join us so we can have a great conversation. But Miss B, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Miss B, and tonight shall be very interesting. We're 2 days into this new dawn, this new administration, and a lot happened in just the first hours of this new administration. And so, politics, if you didn't know by now, politics impacts business.
Oh yeah,
extremely.
A lot. Yeah.
I know our immigrant community like to say, "Oh, me, I don't have time for politics. I don't get involved in politics." Politics is controlling, leading, managing, supervising, whichever way you want to think about it when it comes to your life and everything that's going on in it, especially business.
Exactly. And to your point, right? There's politics everywhere. I mean, in your home, in your church, at your job, Especially like I mean in America, right? It's like sometimes the political events is like 24 hours. It's a 24-hour news cycle. So it's like, and then with Trump, I mean he's a dominant figure when it comes to the kind. I mean he's the ever marketer, right? It's like so. He's, I mean, even like first day of his inauguration in a few hours, how many like executive order 200, right? Those
Yep.
things impact everything. I mean, from deregulation, any like DEI policies, and things like that, and so many things. And then now here, like, we learned today, right? The refugee program is ending, birthright citizenship. So there's so many things that impact, right? Immigrants, small businesses, that every policy area that this new administration is going to touch, right, is actually going to affect each individual pocketbooks. It's going to affect employment. It's going to affect everything. So to say, hey, I don't care about politics. I don't like to, I don't want to battle with that. And I mean, that's just not the way to go, right? Because everything in life to me is politics.
You can't just get up and go to work anymore and not be educated about the policies. Even
Mhm.
the job that you go to, how they treat you at that job, how they raise your wages, how they provide your health benefits. Politics plays in all of that, right? So you can't just
Mhm.
say, "Oh, I'm just going to go to work, make my money and come home." Will that job still be there for you to go to? It is politics, right?
Mhm.
Will they still keep you at the wages that you have? Will they still keep you working the hours that you're working? It's politics. So you cannot just get up tomorrow and say, I'm going to go and clock into my 8-hour shift, 16-hour shift, whatever, how many hour shifts you work, and then just say, I'm going to come home and wait for that paycheck. And that's all I need to be worried about in life. As long as I can get up every morning and go to work, I'll be fine. Not
Okay. As an immigrant, right, it's like, it's like just to pick your brain a little bit, that is Trump 2.0. What has been the most challenging, part of you living in Trump America, right? Trump 1.0 and now Trump 2.0.
I mean, it's too early to say because a lot of his current things don't impact me personally.
Okay.
I mean, I work and I'm blessed in that way. I work in a predominantly or BIPOC led organization where DEI is not a factor for us. We're okay. We have a very diverse, so we didn't need DEI to tell us to be diverse. We just are a naturally diverse organization and we like diversity. So we continue to uphold that. The birthright, automatic birthright, because right now, if you have a child,
Hmm.
and which really makes me wonder if all the people that gave birth today are their kids not going to be American citizens.
Well, that's only applied though to illegal. Like if you are illegal, if you don't have paper, right? If you don't have green card, if you are not a citizen, I mean, you cross into this country illegally. If you have a child, according to what I'm hearing, according to what I mean, I haven't read the executive order, but it says like your child, right, cannot become a U.S. citizen, right? Is that because right now the 14th Amendment that where the Constitution, I mean, the 14th Amendment in the Constitution says once you are born in the United States, and this topic we are going to be discussing it tomorrow, right? It's like I mean in details. Today is immediately the business segment of it, but once you are born in the United States, you are automatically a United States citizen. Trump is saying, no, you know what? If you enter into the U.S. illegally and you have a child here, you should not be a U.S. citizen. I mean, it's like so that doesn't apply to most immigrants, right? Because most immigrants come here legally, right? Through a legal system and things like that, and they have green cards. They are U.S. citizens. So that doesn't apply to every immigrant. It only applies to those that enter this country illegally. So if you're here illegally and you
And
have a
even if you
child,
travel here and on vacation here, your child is not going to be considered an American citizen anymore.
well, yeah, I mean, it's like obviously, I mean, you have birth tourism, right? There's that birth tourism where in like government officials from all over the world or like those that have money, right, coming to this country, sometimes like to have kids, and automatically because of the 14th Amendment that guarantee once you are born in the United States, you are a citizen, you belong here, and you should be here. You are a United States citizen. Trump in his Trump was trying to what? He ran on the policies of trying to what? Control immigration because he feels that the country is being overrun by immigrants, right? The culture of the United States, the identity of America is changing because of what? Immigrants, right? It is impacting businesses. He likes to say there are a lot of, drug cartels, there are a lot of, bad people in this country that he thinks that they should be deported back to their home country. So it's like so that whole 14th Amendment piece, right? Like we'll be discussing it tomorrow on the show in detail, right? So I don't want to,
So we'll
like I
revisit
don't,
we'll
yeah,
revisit
I don't
that
want us to
tomorrow
get
because I
ahead
have
of
my
ourselves
thoughts.
because I said tonight's segment was basically like to have Huda on here, kind of a fill us in, right? What it is that local politicians, like especially in Minnesota, are doing to help their what, various districts, various constituents, how they, I mean, like if especially in Broken Park, there are a lot of immigrants, right? Broken Park is dominated by immigrants. How is that? Even if you're not impacted directly, as you said, by what Trump is announcing right now, uh, uh, it might impact you somewhere or another because you might have friends, you might have families that this kind of policy will be impacting. Small businesses, how they going to, you know, um,
So
I
I
mean,
know for businesses right now, what they're
mhm.
doing is they're intentionally telling management and staff that ICE is not welcome. Do not speak to any ICE agent. Do not engage with them. If ICE shows up to the premises, call, you know, whatever head manager is in charge or on site that day. So I know a lot of businesses are doing things to be able to protect their employees. Period.
How is that
Whether
possible?
they're
I mean, if I show up at a local business and they feel like there are people that need to run up there, how is it possible
we
that,
don't
I mean,
we don't Minnesota has legislative laws in place that does not enforce anybody helping ICE. Nobody has to. You don't.
so is Minnesota a sanctuary state?
Yes, we are.
And what
We
does
are
that mean?
essential. That means we are not going to help ICE. And even you will find the Minneapolis police chief has been one of the first police chiefs to go, had a press conference stating that the city of Minneapolis, the police will not be helping ICE in these upcoming raids that ICE is planning to do. And you don't
Well,
have to. They come to the workforce and they suspect somebody that some illegal person is there. There's nothing that enforces you to render that person over to ICE to ask or answer their questions or anything like that.
but you don't have to answer. Why if you don't? Why if it's okay? You don't want to answer ask question. But right now, I mean, the mandate from the administration, from the Trump administration, here, man, if you suspect someone is there illegally, and I mean, you should round them up. Whether they out of business, church. I mean, right now is that even. I mean, everything is nothing is off limits anymore. Everything is everything. So you say right, a business might refuse, but they must still round
Yes,
them up, right, and
they
and and,
they
and
they
take them
can
away.
refuse to allow them entrance. Yes, you still have some civil liberties that says who is allowed without a warrant. I just because ICE shows up does not mean they have the right to just enter your place. Private places. That does not mean no, they do not. They have to
What
follow the same legal channels. If they know exactly who they're going there for, which they don't, they do raise. They don't know who they're going for. They are suspecting. But if they know exactly who they're going there for and they provide a warrant for that person, then yes, that's different. But ICE showing up and wanting to be allowed to enter into a building just because they're ICE, no, you don't have to.
Okay.
The same way the
Well,
police shows up, you ask them, "Do you have a warrant?" And the officer says no. They tell you to go get one before you enter my house.
okay, okay. Well, that's good to know. Well, welcome to the show, Huda. Nice having you. Miss B and I have, started some, discussion around this. But thanks for taking the time to join us. Very, 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 very. I know you are busy. State representative. Busy time for you. So yeah, we understand and things like that. But as we get settled in here, right? Tonight's topic, and which of course we want to dive in, is business meets politics. The Trump effect. It's like since Trump was inaugurated on uh, on January 20th, Monday, right? There has been a lot happening and things like that. So, as a state representative, what has been your reaction to all of the different executive orders, everything that has been going on nationally, and how's that impacting your district?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I apologize for running late. It's been just back to back. And I never understood that I could be this busy, but this is a different kind of busy, but it's a good busy. That means that I'm out here connecting with key stakeholders to make sure that I am ready to go when that time comes. So with that, Ms. B, it's so good to see you. So good to be a part of this conversation. And so just a high overview of the reaction and what's going on. Obviously, me being, a Democrat, it's definitely hard. And also me being from, coming from the immigrant community, and all the executive orders that have been passed since he took office. Even before he, officially, was sworn in, he was already not necessarily sworn in, but like he was already just signing off executive orders. And the biggest one that I think I jumped in when you guys were already having a conversation was, the immigration policies that he's executive orders that he's passing that touches on immigration policy.
Yeah.
And obviously, the biggest thing that right now, as a state, we are trying to do is to educate our community about, what they need to do, how they need to react, what they need to say when somebody, approaches them in regards to, their immigration status. And so I'm excited to kind of dig a little bit into that and what that looks like.
Okay.
And obviously talk about some of the resources that are being put together for our community and what's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks here.
Broken Park and the area you represent, right, is a very diverse area with a lot of immigrants. What do you think? How can our voices, right, be heard in these moment of, in these uncertain times, right? How are your folks in Broken Park and the area that you represent, in your district, how can our voices be heard? during time like this?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that the right information is getting to our community.
Okay.
Right now, there's a lot of misinformation out there about some of these executive orders.
Sure.
And as key stakeholders in the community, I'm talking about, organizations like ACER, immigration offices, Hennepin County. I've been talking to a Hennepin County attorney, his office, and trying to come up with a clinic in partnership with local organization, immigration clinic, so that way, we can provide a safe space, right? Where our people can come and get the information that they need. Because right now, depend on your situation, a lot of these executive orders that are being passed, it pertains to you differently, right?
Okay.
So the goal for, especially in this district, there's a couple of conversations that I'm having. I'm going to be putting information out there in terms of those, the dates for the immigration clinics. We do understand that, a lot of people might be hesitant to even come to those, clinics. So we are very intentional about how we are getting that word out. And we all know how our community operates, right?
Yeah.
It's word of mouth. And if that information is coming from people that they don't know, they're not going to show up. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is to get the right information, even if it's a simple thing as a Q&A, that we are putting together.
Well,
so being distributed, and then obviously in other channels to get the word out.
Okay. What else? My next question, quick, before I bring Miss B in here, right? Is that, are you going to hold a town hall, like a town hall event for your community? In times like this, right? They need leaders to step forward to say, hey, man, is that because as you said, they need trusted voices, right, to speak to them. Are you planning to to do a town hall in your district?
Yes, actually a couple. So we are planning on having one. And again, this is information that we are still working on. And I don't want to put the addresses out there again because so here's the game plan. Right now we are creating a strategy where, we'll get the word out to the community. We will utilize, trusted key community leaders, trusted channels like yourselves, going to churches and saying, hey, we need you guys to sign up. Whoever signs up, then we will send them, right, the address to where they need to go, because we want to make sure that people feel safe. I want to put especially a sensitive thing as an address out there where it can be subject to, like ICE, to know exactly a whole bunch of people showing up there, so let's go
Okay.
there. We want that, right? So we're
Yeah.
trying to be intentional about how we're trying to get out. And again, the biggest thing right now is to finalize those logistics.
Mhm.
They should be finalized this week, and
Mhm.
then we'll start marketing this registration process, where we will then be able and be at liberty to basically have people register. And then as soon as you register, you get the information of the different locations within not only this district, but outside
Okay.
of where folks can go and get the information that they need.
Yeah. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing business meet politics and the Trump effect. Tonight we have Representative Huldah Hisley here with us. You can comment in our chat if you have questions for us, or you can also call 817-600-1525. Miss B, comment, question, concern from you?
Um, for me, thank you, again, congratulations on your win. I'm very excited about your agenda for the next 2 years. And so we're glad to have you here this evening. We know right now the legislature has really a lot going on from the federal and locally, right? As I think we have a split house right now. And there's tensions and contention. So it's great that you're able to focus on your district and focus on your residents with all the other bureaucracies and politics, that you're surrounded with right now. For me, it's about how are we going to be protecting, our business owners, right? And we have such a large immigrant-owned businesses here in your district that are turning out to be large employers of the community as well, right? If businesses are feeling threatened or feeling overwhelmed, I mean, are there going to be some strategies, and where can they look to get some resources or get some support right now? Not just as far as some financial support, but as far as understanding what rights do they have as a business owner, because I know there are undocumented folks that own businesses, right? And so what are some of the things being put in place to really protect our business community?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're starting to look at is the impact on, especially on immigrant owners of businesses within our community. And you guys know that this district is the cornerstone of African immigrant businesses. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Go a block without seeing a business that is owned by an African born and so the biggest challenge, we're seeing is that some of these businesses are definitely starting to feel the impact of this administration, because, people are afraid. People are afraid to even go there because, some of them are being targeted. I was just reading APR news about, if you guys know Little Village, known as, it's a little village known as Little Mexico in Chicago. That slowly shutting down because people are literally afraid to go there, to go shop. And so my message right now, again, as we are trying to grapple with the executive orders that are coming down, even agencies are struggling to figure out how, number one, what does that mean legally? Because right now, a lot of agencies are filing lawsuits because a lot of what they're doing is borderline unconstitutional. And some of this stuff, we have to actually break them down each by each. I'm talking about, end birthright citizenship, right? That's a constitutional amendment that has to happen to be able to move, that to actually take place and the lawsuits that are going to come up. So my point is this. Yes, these executive orders are being, have already been signed. Right now, agencies are trying to figure out how to either implement some of this or how to challenge some of this. And so when it comes to our businesses, specifically in my district and in the state of Minnesota in general, because what's happening in my district is the same thing as happening in all of these other districts that have an African presence of business, is to make sure that we have the right resources available. Legal resources, right? Sure that we are tapping into our agencies, for example, like DEED, to make sure that they continue, their promises in supporting our small businesses no matter what, So right now, my team, my staff is working on collecting all of the businesses that are centered here in Senate District 38, not just Senate House District 38A, but the entire district, looking at of that. And I want to have a town hall. I want to have a town hall with all of the businesses,
Okay.
and our organizations who are supporting many of our people,
Yep.
right?
Okay.
Immigrant, not just Africans, but supporting immigrant community in this state.
Uh,
And a town hall to talk about, to bring in, lawyers to talk
sure.
about what is it that, that you have, what rights do you have? How do you
Sure.
defend? How do
Okay.
you, somebody shows up at your, claiming to be whatever, whatever, and they're asking for this. When do you say no? And what do you ask for so that you can protect yourself and also you can protect your employees, right?
Okay. Okay.
Um, and so I think a lot of it is right now is the misinformation that we need to combat. That's going to
Sure.
be a challenge, and
Yeah.
then the fear of what's going on.
Okay.
Because what we're seeing out here and what the actual truth is, there's a
Mm-hmm.
big, huge disconnect, and we need to bridge that gap.
Okay. Well, for me, here's the thing, right? Election have consequences, right? I mean, Trump, you know what I mean, campaign on immigration crackdown. He says that he was going to implement these policies, and then now, I mean, he's implementing it as a politician. Don't you think it is right? It is his, I mean, in his administration preview, right, to say, hey, man, we are going to implement these policies and we want local politicians, right, like you to support us because this is what we ran on. And we want to make sure, right, that, hey, he says he want to get rid of illegal immigrants. I mean, he want to close the border and get rid of illegal immigrants, not necessarily folks that are here legally.
Absolutely not. I'm not going to support something that is harmful to our community. That's the reason why I ran to begin with.
Okay.
If you're a politician and you're running just to follow orders and just to follow the party lines, then this is not the business for you. I got into this because I wanted to serve my community. I wanted to serve the people of Senate District 38. And a big population of that Senate District 38A are African immigrants. We have a large population of the Hmong community, the Latino community, you name it. And so that's the voice that has been missing at the Capitol. So for me to sit here and say, just because somebody, I don't care who you are, is literally treading on your constitutional right. That's why we fight, that's why it took, I don't know how long for the civil rights to actually be, to go into effect. Even to this day, we're still fighting. So sadly enough, this administration is definitely attacking the fundamental freedoms of its citizens and of its residents.
Okay.
And as politicians and as leaders, as community leaders, as the community in general, we all have a role to play to make sure that we uphold the Constitution and the rights of individuals within our borders. And we have the right to do that. And we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that especially folks who are coming from marginalized communities, that their voices are heard, that they're protected, that they have all the accurate information to make the best decision, not because of out of fear, not because of, the rhetoric that is coming from the federal level.
Okay. How has your personal background shaped your views on immigration, and how is that going to help you advocate for policies that affect the immigrant community?
Yeah, I mean, for most people, for those of you who know my background, my family fought the immigration system for 11 years. So when I hear somebody talk about, why can't somebody just go through the immigration system the right way and all of this stuff, it's like, try to do that. Fight this complex system for 11 years. And we were literally 48 hours away from being deported from this country. So this is personal to me. I know that there's families, I know exactly what most of these families are going through when you have no idea what tomorrow brings. So for me, it gives me a renewed energy and a sense of duty to go out here and fight, because I've been through it, and I somehow, some way, God's grace, I made it through to the other side. And I can sit here and be a testament that, we have a broken system, but at the same time, we also have a law, that we can use to protect most of these folks who are now under attack because of the rhetoric that is coming from the federal government.
Okay, Ms. B?
No, I want to say, it hits home for me too, because I've lost family members to the immigration system and the immigration process of being deported. When I say people that were here who immigration knew about them, knew who they were, they knew that they were working citizens. They knew that these were folks who had came and paid out of pocket to educate themselves. So that's pouring back into our system. And these are people who I'm talking about worked and paid taxes faithfully. And so these are people who were pouring back into our economy. I know naturalized citizens and born citizens, we have to realize for the kind of economy that we have a small population of people in this country as a whole, right?
Okay.
We are the largest consumer globally, and we have a small population. We risk of turning into other European countries who are struggling right now because their population is so old, of falling into that same problem, right? Where
Okay.
we're thinking, oh, and the number of folks you're trying, of a population of 377 million people in this country, we're talking 11 million people.
Okay.
You know, we're talking 11 million people of immigrants, and not all undocumented, right? So the total immigrant population in this country is about 11 million people, including documented and undocumented. And
Okay.
documented just means you're on some type of program, be it
Okay.
TPS, DED, or DACA, right?
Okay.
And undocumented just means that you're not in the system on some type of program, or you fell out. You fell
Okay.
out of the system. You were once on a program and you fell out too. So those are some of the folks we're still talking about, right?
Okay.
And we have to think about, when it comes to our jobs, our businesses, our folks are the ones that want to work for us. That
Okay.
too is a problem,
Okay.
right? You go to Asian businesses, you're going to see predominantly Asian staff members there.
Okay.
It's just a natural thing for us when it comes to our BIPOC businesses, our Latino businesses, our African immigrant businesses, our Asian businesses. You're going to see that most of the staff that are employed there are the folks that look like them and live in their community.
Okay. Representative Huda, right? What's your reaction when Trump says, right, immigrants are destroying the fabric, the fabric of America, the identity of America, right? They are destroying this country. What's your reaction to that as an immigrant?
Let me watch my face on that one, because the fabric of this country is literally rooted in immigrants.
Okay.
Yes.
Immigrants. It continues to be rooted in immigrants, because there's moments where
Christopher Columbus was an immigrant last time I checked, when he landed here.
Some of these folks who are married to some of these folks who are creating these laws are immigrants.
Okay.
You know, and so
the first lady, now last time I checked, she's an immigrant.
The first lady and the second lady is of immigrant descent. You know, so that is the kind of rhetoric that I'm talking about, that we continue to sit here and pass off as truth when we know damn well is not the truth. You know, and we have
the majority of Americans supported him, even though, it's like they say, hey, they agree with him. The majority of the American population agree with him, including immigrants, Latinos, blacks, they voted for him.
My brother, let's be honest. Let me be careful.
18%, I just want to say 18% of the Black population voted for him. 43% of the Latino population voted him. So he didn't get an overwhelming amount of those populations voting for him, but people voted for Trump on different things. Sometimes for folks, unfortunately, who voted for Trump, it was probably just one thing. Okay, he's a Christian, or he has Christian values. And so I cannot say that because he got a majority vote was because, everybody agreed with his immigration policies. Unfortunately, no. People didn't understand all of his policies, and to weigh in and say, okay, what are some of the things that I really can live with? And what are some of the things that is just, I cannot live with, right? Instead of just thinking about the one thing I'm going to get by having Trump in office. And I know we're going to see the repercussions of that more to come in the next 4 years, where people will be regretting. And they did it in his first term, right? You think about it, 4 years later, people's like, oh no, I changed my mind. This is not what I want. And then we come back and you're like, oh, I see one thing in there that I like, so therefore I'm going to vote for him. I think that's what's happened. It's not that everybody supports every single policy that Trump ran on.
Absolutely. That too, like Ms. B said, us immigrants have, a certain core values, and there's a couple of those core values that he claims he has. We're talking, and then also too, immigrants who have business owners, they can relate to him on that quote level of economic concern, right? And then I don't know, Ms. B, maybe you can help me reason here, because I was trying to rack my brain around some of the reasons why some of this, immigrants or folks coming from, minority backgrounds would vote for him. But do you think it's also because of the perception of, like, preferential treatment of new immigrants who are coming in, especially those of us who've been here for years and decades and all of that stuff, where, as long-standing immigrants sometimes, might feel like new arrivals, particularly, asylum seekers, receive preferential treatment. Maybe that perception might have led, I don't know. So like Ms. B said, there's so many things. It wasn't just that one immigration issue that, people were looking at. They were looking at the economy. They were looking at, his brand, right? This man was very direct, and then also he was looking at the cultural aspect of it, where immigrants, especially African immigrants, have this cultural values that they, hold dear. And he aligned with that, So again, there's a lot of reasons we could sit here and debate back and forth as to why somebody as an immigrant would vote for somebody like Trump. But the bottom line is, we're here. What do we do with this? The policies and the executive orders that are raining down on us, the next we're starting to feel them. This is not something that we're gonna feel after 1 or 2 years. We're starting to already feel them. Somebody had posted on Facebook, they have seen ICE officials in Brooklyn Center, and I'm sitting here going, it has begun. I think the most important thing is, how do we protect ourselves and get the right information to our community so that they know how to navigate this new reality we're in.
So if there's a family in your district that gets affected, by ICE raid, is there, what advocates or what can they do, right? If they come to you and say, if someone, in your district, right, maybe their brother or sister was arrested, right, or were affected by ICE raid and come to you, what help can you give them?
So really good question. I was last week. It was last week. I had a meeting and a really good discussion with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. And what we're trying to do, it's a group of us elected officials, both, locally and nationally, who are coming together and putting resources together for folks. And so that's where now, we are very intentional about having these town hall meetings in various locations so that we can distribute that information in those resources, that resource document, I guess I'm just gonna coin it that way. We'll have lawyers who are on standby trying to, be there to support anybody who might have issues. We have, service providers, who will be on standby just in case a parent gets caught up in the system. What happened to the kids? Like, we need to, so we're looking at this whole thing holistically and making sure that we have resources to address whatever need that might come on pertaining to if there's a raid, for example. And also I wanted to mention earlier too, we're seeing the effect of this even in our churches, those places where we call our safe spaces, community gatherings, our churches, our synagogues, you name it. Those places are not out of reach from ICE to raid, a church service or whatever the case might be, so making sure that the key stakeholders who have a say in all of this, who are in a position to really service a lot of our members, know and have the resources that they need in order to be successful in doing that.
Okay. In a politically polarized environment as we live in right now, right? You got different folks in your district, right? How do you bridge that gap, right? How do you talk to different folks? It's not only like immigrants in your community, right? You have different folks there. How do you, obviously you're passionate about immigration because of your background, but how do you bridge that gap, right? To bring those different communities together?
Absolutely. So I'll give you this analogy. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, right? That whole movement, we don't, it's not that everybody else don't matter. Everybody else matters. But right now, a good friend of mine told me this. He described it in a way that actually made sense to me, because at first I was like, what do you mean? I mean, why can we be inclusive and, all of this? He said, if my house was burning right now and I came to you and told you, hey, my house is burning right now. Yes, right now my house matters more than your house because your house is not on fire. And that's why I'm so passionate about immigration. Right now, our community is on fire and we need to address that does not mean the rest of the folks in my constituency do not matter. Believe me, they're being taken care of very well. There's already systems and institutions in place to address a lot of the core concerns that, the rest of the constituencies have. Right now, the immigrant community is hurting, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that, and not saying that we are foregoing the other needs of this community, because that's also parallel to what's happening within the African immigrant community and just the immigrant community in general. So that's where that I'm putting a lot of energy right now. And I'm not saying that I'm forgetting the rest of the constituencies, because I am having conversations, for example, with our law enforcement departments. I'm having conversations with our unions to make sure that, as we are getting to the bargaining tables, they have a voice there. So I'm having those conversations, but right now, a lot of the energy is going into, the immigration and how that is impacting our community in a way that will have long lasting impact, not only in our communities, but also in our businesses, in our schools, every aspect of our lives in the U.S. are going to be impacted. We're not going to be the same ever again. The question is, how are we going to use this time to make sure the impact is not going to be crippling to the point where it's long lasting, that we can't recover from?
Okay, Ms. B.
No, I was gonna say the way I always like to look at it too is like we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? Does that mean leukemia and all the other cancers don't matter? No, but right now we want to address breast cancer. And so I agree with you, our Representative Hitsley. It's everybody in your district matter, but whose homes are burning right now is going to be the first homes that you address to weather that storm, and then you can get back to taking care of everybody as well. And we thank you for having these critical conversations. As you talk about having conversations with the police, I noticed Minneapolis police chief had a conference, a news conference about taking a position to say Minneapolis police will not be supporting ICE. Is that something that we're going to see happening in your district? Is that something we'll be hearing from Brooklyn Park and Osseo police chiefs here soon to kind of make that stance and let the residents know that they can feel safe, as Minnesota is a sanctuary state, and I believe Brooklyn Park declared itself a sanctuary city as well. So just wanted to know what kind of conversations are happening there.
Yes, a lot of conversations. I'm glad you brought that up, because I would have probably forgotten to bring that up. So yes, I am having conversations, especially with our police chiefs in Brooklyn Center, in Brooklyn Park and Osseo. And I actually have a meeting with all three this coming week in regards to what this looks like and their role in it. And I'm hoping when we have these town halls, they're also there to tell the community directly from their mouth, what their role is. Because sometimes, we might be out here, and if there's, for example, is that raid happening, right? And we see our police officers out there, we automatically assume that they're there to support that, when in fact they're there to just make sure that their community is safe, beyond just that one factor. The reason why I say that is because I'm a part of MAC, and MAC is a committee of community leaders and law enforcement officers within this district. We get together once a month, and we talk about, what's going on in our community, anything that we need to address. And one of the things that actually last week when we had our January get together is we looked at immigration policy. What does that look like? And for sure, Brooklyn Center, the police chief confirmed that, they're not going to support, any raids for ICE. The only support that they'll be providing them is like traffic control, community safety. That's it. But to sit here and give information, they're not going to do that. They're not going to participate in some of this activities. And so again, going back to your question, Ms. B, so that's a conversation we definitely want to make sure that we confirm and align with all, especially the three different police chiefs within my district here, to make sure that they also, adhere to what the Minneapolis police chief said, because it's going to take a whole village to make this whole thing work.
Yes.
Make sure that our allies and those people that are committed and have vowed to serve and protect are actually doing that. And there's a couple of things that the chief of Brooklyn Center really brought up that was very interesting that I didn't know about. Where if, for example, ICE comes and raids a family and there's like a relative who is affected by that, either physically or they're a victim of that situation, he has the power to grant. I can't remember. I don't want to misspeak here, but a temporary like type of visa to allow them to stay here and kind of figure out that whole situation. And so that's the kind of information that I didn't know about that. Like, I didn't know the chiefs had that kind of power. And so that's one of the things that I want to make sure that, they're also a part of the conversation to come in and tell the community, what their role is as well.
Okay. Well, we have a commenter, Andrea. She's saying like, what can we do as individuals, right, to help impacted families and customers? Or if I have a business and someone, ICE come and raid it, what can I do, or what should I do, or what should I be looking to do?
Thank you so much, Andrea. I think once we finalize on all of this logistics in regards to some of these immigration clinics, some of these town hall meetings that we want to host, again, we will have all of those resources. We will have a simple thing as a Q&A. What do you say? What is the role of a family member when they're caught up in this? Because, we as family members who, have either a permanent resident status or, we have officially been, become U.S. citizens, we have a big role to play in that. Your family member who might not have that status, might not be able to speak for themselves. But you as a citizen, you as a permanent resident, you as having a valid visa in this country, you can stand up and also speak on their behalf and say, sorry, nope, not here. Please leave my property, or, like Ms. B talked earlier, like, where's your warrant, and so the biggest thing I keep on saying here is educating our community about the rights that they have and how to exercise those rights. Because when you don't know what your rights are, you'll just go anyhow. Somebody will come knock at your door, tell you one thing, you'll be like, oh, please, welcome, because we are so friendly with that. We will give them tea, give them everything they need, and but realize it is too late and there's nothing you can do about it, right?
Yes.
We have to make sure our people know what's going on and what their rights are in order to protect themselves.
Okay. What impact do you think there's going to have on the labor force in your district, right? Is it going our jobs, our local businesses going to have hard time finding employees and things like that?
I think for the most part, when it comes to the labor force, I think the biggest impact is going to be our small businesses. They're going to see a huge decline because we have been so blessed to have such successful businesses within our community that cater to our needs, right? Specifically to our needs. They have, things that sometimes, how you come here from, your mother country and you bring your whole entire, shop, because you want to bring the things that you're accustomed to, right? And so a lot of people are going to stop going to these shops because of fear of, what might be. And so, again, if we're able to educate our business owners what their rights are as well, to make sure that they have everything, their ducks in a row, so that if anybody comes to their doors, they know exactly how to operate. I think that's going to be our winning strategy in combating all of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
If how did we get here, right? A country that you guys, it says like it's a country of immigrant. How did we get here? Well, there's so much negativity, right, towards the immigrant narrative. How did we get here? Is it like immigrants are not doing enough to tell their story?
Fear.
Go ahead, Ms. B, because I got a couple of.
I think people project fear. They will create a problem and then be the one to look to solve it. Like what I learned recently was this whole banning of TikTok actually came from Trump. He was the one who said, let's ban TikTok. He brought it forth. And of course, he has the Supreme Court stacked. He has the most nominations ever made by presidents, I believe, of Supreme Court people appointed by him. And then just for him to get in office, to say, okay, I'm going to bring TikTok back. We're not going to ban TikTok. So I think it's, if you read books like The Art of War and The Prince, I think was written by Machiavelli, what some leaders do and very strategic is that they create a sense of fear, right? And then when in creating that fear, they bring forth a solution to it. And that scarcity mentality, when you think about rural areas of America that don't have access to information, the technology divide is a thing here in this country. So not everybody is accessing information in the same manner, the most up-to-date information, and then you create a sense of scarcity and fear. You can then get somebody in office like Trump, who now has the solutions to all the fears and scarcity that he has created. And once you have that mindset, because the main things people worry about immigrants, they're taking our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They're making this place unsafe. They're all criminals. They're the reason why we have high crime. And people of color, Black people, remember you were once that problem. And now that problem is being projected on immigrants, right? And so it's playing into all of that for me.
I guess that's my question. Then again, I come out to the same question: how did we get here, right? Is it like immigrants? Or how is it narrative, right? Getting a hold of the American population, right? As I said, this thing is not a secret, right? Trump ran on this, right, for almost a year. How did we get here? Is it that we are not telling our stories? It's like I'm Representative Huda. If you can chime in here.
We are definitely telling our stories. We are definitely being loud about it. I think because I remember when, because I came into this country when I was 9 years old. And back then, it was all about assimilating to this culture and not, being proud of who you are and really owning your identity and your roots. And over time, I've seen that change. Even the social fabric of this country now, I could see my girlfriends, jamming into Afrobeats. It was like anything Africa was, that's dirty, that's bad, that's this, that's that, right? Now we are being embraced. So it's not about not telling our story. I think we have done a really good job of that. For me, it's this, again, going back to what Ms. B talked about, the economic concern, this whole wrong and misleading assumption that we are here to take, the jobs that most of us immigrants are doing. An average American, and mind you now, let's remember the context of this, the fabric of this country. Most of these people who claim they're Americans are also immigrants. The only people who can claim they are true American is the native Indians of this country. That is it. The rest of us are immigrants in one level or another. But anyways, so we talk about the misinformation and the stereotypes. And now that the Trump is in office, he's literally basically reaffirming all of these things, the misinformation and the stereotypes. He's reaffirming the historical precedents, the cycles of nativism, right, in this country. The scapegoating, right? Blaming social problems, like Ms. B said, on immigrants. We are always the scapegoat for broader, social issues such as crime, unemployment, housing shortages. Despite our contributions to this country, we're still being blamed for that. And national security threat. Again, immigrants, we're also looked at as the number one threat to that. So we can go on and on and on and talk about how we got. It's in there. It's that now this administration has made it okay to basically act on those stereotypes, misinformation, and the rest.
Okay, I like to come to a lower question here quick, right? It's like, some of us, those that are citizens, green card holders, do all of us now have to start carrying our documents with us? Because if someone can't, because of my accent, and rape me, right, is that maybe I don't have my passport with me. Because in certain states like Minnesota, right, illegal immigrants are allowed to have driver's license. So that's not a guarantee, So should we start carrying our passports?
Absolutely not. Do not carry your passport. For what purpose? If you care, especially, so we're talking about U.S. citizens, there's nothing you should be worried about. You're a U.S. citizen. No. Now,
U.S. citizen and green card holders, do they, what's about, green card holders as well?
No. You do not need to carry your documents, number one. Number two, nobody should stop you and ask you for your status. That is infringing on your rights. Again, this is where we need to educate our community about what our rights are. Now, if you're not a permanent resident or a citizen, absolutely do not carry your passport. Because if you carry a passport and you get caught up in all of that, you can't even fight it. You will be deported like that night, especially if you carry a passport. Now, do not carry a passport. for any means at all. Obviously, make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? He declares like a emergency, right? That hey, like this whole immigration stuff, especially at the southern border, is an emergency. So, and ICE, right? They're giving ICE a lot of power. So if they come and raid you and you don't answer, I mean, they're gonna take you away. It's like, what's there to? I don't. I mean, you guys help me understand, right? I mean, as a representative, help me understand. If I refuse to talk to an ICE agent, can they not take me away? I mean, can they not raid me?
They're
Let's,
not gonna raid you. They're not pulling people over in their cars because they're not police. They're
yeah.
not gonna raid residential homes. They're gonna most likely enter public spaces. That's their biggest thing they'll try to do is enter public spaces.
That,
Because the reality is, again, they can't pull you over. They're not police. How the police can help them and police are refusing to help them is that if you get pulled over or end up in jail and the jail now gives your information to ICE, ICE can come and pick you up from the jail cell. That's
mm,
that's the only real way ICE can really take people. Otherwise, if ICE shows up to a place of employment, that employer is the one that's going to say no, ICE can enter or ICE can enter, and that's going to be depending on that employer. That employer, there's nothing that says in law that employer has to allow ICE to come and walk through their facility and pick up so and so. If they come and ask for a particular person, the employer has every right to say that person's not here, they're not at work today. They can do
okay.
that and not be held for any illegal things.
Yeah, Representative Huda, what do you say to this, right? I mean, this thing has been planned for a long time. It's not just, Trump, even though Trump signed these executive orders just on Monday, but that is something that has been in the works. So they came ready prepared, right? ICE is prepared, right? And I mean, to a last touch point here, right? They are conducting targeted raids. What available resources are there in the event an undocumented immigrant is arrested?
Again, this is a topic that we need experts to come and speak on.
Mm,
I'm not an immigration lawyer.
okay.
That's why we want to make sure that we do have these clinics, and we are hoping
How
as
soon? How soon? Because yeah, these raids have started, right? Especially I'm learning from you guys. Minnesota is a sanctuary state, and the administration is targeting sanctuary states, right? Folks where immigrants can roam free, right? It's like illegal immigrants can roam free. Those are the cities or cities they are targeting. How soon can the community, right? Can your district and the community around the state can expect immigration clinics?
so right now, the first immigration clinic we are planning is on February 6th.
Mm,
We are hoping that we can move that sooner because this is January 22nd.
yeah.
Um, we're waiting for just a couple of more folks to confirm, especially experts who can speak to this. Again, I'm
Mhm,
not a lawyer, so please do not listen to me and take that advice as rule of law because
mhm,
this is not my field. And so that's why it's so important for us to have those clinics. And as soon as those resources have been compiled and put together,
mhm,
that will be the first thing we want to distribute to the community so that people know exactly who to call if your family member is caught up or what to do and say as a business owner, as somebody, who somebody just shows up at your house. And so, yeah, bear with us. We definitely want to make sure that we are very careful how we're doing this again, because the last thing we want is to create a situation where we put our community in more jeopardy than it is right now. And we want to be careful about, the strategic plan that we are putting in place. But for sure, our first town hall will be, or clinic, whatever you want to call it. It's
mhm.
February 6th. And once we confirm, again, the logistics of that, we will get that word out to the community.
Are there immigration lawyers that are willing to help with this initiative? I mean, with this initiative?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes. You
they've
would
been around for a while.
They've been around for a while, and especially with everything that's going on, there's a lot of people who are literally working pro bono because they understand the magnitude of the impact that it will have not only in our immigrant communities, but also in the social and economic places for the
Hmm.
state. So this
Okay.
is definitely something that folks are ready to help. It's just a matter of how do we coordinate and create a safe space for the experts to be, as well as the people who actually need that information to come and feel safe that they'll be able to get the information that they need without fear of getting arrested or being noticed or whatever the case might be.
Okay. As an immigrant, what was the reaction when you hear like the administration want to and birthright citizenship, wherein like the 14th Amendment guaranteed that currently, but the Trump administration is saying they want to get rid of that. As an immigrant, right? Someone who came here, as you said, at the age of 9. What is their reaction to that? That they want to get rid of that birthright citizenship.
I go back to the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? The children who are caught up in all of this, right now as it stands, they are citizens, and they deserve all the protections under the law. That's where I stand in regards to that. Again, it is all of this is very complex. You can look at it from different angles, but I look at it from a constitutional standpoint and perspective, and that's where I'll stand.
Okay. How can Minnesota or your district serve as a model, for embracing immigrants?
I mean, we've done that. Minnesota has been a city or a state where it has welcomed all people from different walks of life. And it has been, that's why we are considered a sanctuary state. And that's why we have been very heavily targeted by this administration. And the fabric of this state, literally, that is where we have become a model in the whole entire US in terms of how we've been able to champion, we've been able to use this diversity to build a really strong, state, not only socially, but also economically. I mean, if you look at, the last legislative cycle, we had 17 billion in surplus, and a big chunk of that, right, the immigrant community contributed to that. And so we are a very progressive state. We have passed some really progressive agenda where, a lot of other states have looked at and admired. So we continue to break ground on every aspect of society. We were the first state to elect the first, Black women into the Senate. We were the first state to elect all women at a city council in St. Paul. So we're definitely leading in so many different ways. And right now the country is looking at Minnesota and how we are going to lead the country during this time.
Yeah, I mean, like to your point, though, if immigrants are contributing so much to the economy, how come a lot is not coming back to them, right? It's like, there's so much disparity. I mean, you hear that especially like local immigrant businesses struggle, with access to financing, access to loans and things like that. If we are contributing as immigrants so much to this economy, so much to the fabric of this state, how come we are not reaping the benefits?
There's a few factors into that, and Ms. B has been in this work. She can definitely speak to this. There's a couple of factors, and some of the factors that I can think of is that there's things that we just don't know. Most of us are focused on going to school, going to church, coming home, like that cycle, right? We haven't taken the time to sit here and really, especially when it comes to politics, to really engage in this civic participation, where we can then be at the table to make some of these decisions so that we can have those resources come back, those resources come back to our community. And so we have a long way to go. And I think as time continues to move on, as more and more of us realize the power that is in civic engagement, we will see that narrative change and shift. And we also have to shift our mindset. There's a big population of us where when we first came to America, what was the thought process? Go to America, make money, go back home, right? And we've some of us obviously there's some of us who they didn't have a choice. For example, our Liberian brothers and sisters, where the Civil War literally rooted them from their country to here, and this was the only option. The Somali community as well. But some of us who didn't have to go through that experience, we have one foot here, we have one foot back home. But if you look at the times have changed, we are having kids here, we are investing here. Most of us are not going back to Africa. Most of us are rooted here. And so having that mind shift to go beyond just our core cycle of life and go beyond that and say, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere. We have to participate. And I think the biggest piece that is missing within our community, in order for us to get some of those resources to our community, is participating in our civic engagement. That's a really big piece that is missing. And then also our businesses. If you don't know, you just don't know. There's so much resources out there, especially when we talk about, small business loans, and also us taking the initiative to fight to make sure that when those loan structures are being put, when some of these structures are being put in place, that our voices are there. For example, some of our businesses cannot access some of these resources. Guess what? Because those resources do not cater to our very specific cultural needs. You go and apply for your loan. They tell you, oh, you need a brick and mortar. Most of our businesses are in our basements, and we are doing really well, right?
Okay.
And so making sure that we are also at the table to tell these people, yes, you made this requirements, but did you count into this cultural? Exactly.
Okay. Ms. B, any reaction or comment or thing you want to contribute there?
No, I just want to say, reach out to your legislature, not just because Representative Hitsley is here. They have connections to resources, right? So right now, if you know somebody that's been picked up, reach out to your legislatures. Call any one of your legislatures' office. They are equipped. They have staff, very knowledgeable staff, that are equipped with all the different information and access to connections, as far as lawyers, knowing who the immigration lawyers are, knowing what offices. And then the next folks I would say would reach out to your community organization. Your community organizations also have connections. They may not know it all, but they'll know how to connect you to the different organizations and different legislatures to be able to support you. There is help out there. Do not just be dealing with whatever issue you're dealing with right now alone. Reach out to your community organizations and reach out to your state legislators. They're here to help.
Yeah, Representative, right? What advice will you give a young immigrant who want to aspire to follow in your footsteps, right? See you as an immigrant, you have been, you have been elected to a legislature that is, dominantly Caucasian, right? What advice will you give a young immigrant who want to follow in your footsteps?
I think the most important thing is be true to you. Be true to who you are. Be rooted in your identity. Be proud of that. And that's the beauty of America, where you can be who you are, and you shouldn't be persecuted for it. And that's what we are fighting for, right? And then also, build your resume. Get involved. Go out here and serve your community in one way or another. Participate in some of these commissions. A lot of our people don't even know that. If I ask somebody, when is your city council meeting, right? Nobody's gonna tell you, because most of us are busy doing working. So especially for our young people, build your resume on community service. Go out there and serve. So when that time comes and you're ready to run, you don't have to sit here and try to make up stuff. Your resume will speak for you, and don't be afraid to reach out, avail yourself, take ownership, take initiative, to show interest in this space. And then reach out to people like myself. Come and intern at the Capitol. Bring your parents to the Capitol, because some of us have never stepped a foot in that place. And so I would definitely encourage, especially our young immigrants, to know that we belong here. We deserve a piece of the pie as well, because we are contributing. So we shouldn't be shy about stepping into this space, because don't let nobody tell you that you don't belong. We belong here and we deserve to be here. We've put in the work, and we will continue to put in the work. That's what I would let them.
How do you plan to engage folks in your community? I mean, especially in your district, because most of our people stay away from politics, right? Stay away from civic engagement. How do you plan to change that? How do you plan to engage them to make sure that they are involved, right? Because it's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to require work and effort, and that from folks like you who have gone through it. How do you not only get running for office, but participate in the process as well?
I think one of the main reasons why I ran is because we weren't getting updates from our leaders. And the updates we were getting is because we have pressured for those updates. We have pressured for those conversations. And I think one of the things that I'm excited to initiate is this, whether it is quarterly or monthly town hall meetings, whether it is over Zoom, where I just come on and I just tell people, hey, this is what's going on. This is where you need to participate. Because I think that piece is also missing. And I have told my staff that, at the end of the day, this office is for the people. So you come in and the door will be open. Right now, what I'm doing is scheduling meetings to as many key stakeholders as I can within our community, because I can't do it alone. And I know that. And so most of those meetings are centered in community leaders who have access to our community, who can communicate when I'm not able to, what is happening, what is important, where do we need our folks to participate. And I think it's also important too, that, you know, I carry that burden of bringing awareness into this space, right? Because a lot of times we don't participate because we just don't know, or we don't see ourselves in there. And so me going into this was also a part of making sure that we also show our community that it's possible, and that we can do it really well, and that it can actually be done. It can actually be done. And so I'm looking forward to creating those spaces where, you know, our community can engage with me and the Capitol. It's not just me. I want to be able to expose our community to what's going on behind those walls, and make sure that folks know exactly how they can participate. Because if you don't know how to participate, you are not going to take that initiative to come up and, I want to participate. What can I do? No. And I know that I have to create that space, and with time, we're gonna get there.
Okay. Ms. B.
No, I will say that I once upon a time was throwing myself in the ring, and some of the key things that I did was I was on charter commission, so serving on a commission and really showing up to community meetings when I could, showing up to city council, and I actually went door knocking. So when you run for office, the first thing you have to do to put in your application is you got to have a certain amount of signatures depending on what seat you're running from. And so for running for city council, I had to find 25 people in my neighborhood to sign this application so I could submit it. And I went door to door, you know, knocking on people's doors, introducing myself and saying, hey, you know, I want to run for city council. And I got those signatures and I submitted my application. But, you know, politics was at play, and I didn't continue to run. But yeah, you know, it's possible. It's very much possible. And I see myself, you know, Brooklyn Park just elected Amanda Zhang, 24 years old. She's Asian. We have Representative Zainab. I think when she got into office, she was 23. And so these are BIPOC women of color, that are signifying that it's possible. And then also now we have Huda, who is sitting in that space. So it's very much, we have Ilhan Umar. We have a lot more representation from the immigrant community than before. And so it is very much reachable and attainable. Get involved, do something.
And,
Yeah,
and
oh yeah, go ahead.
let me add to Ms. B real quick. One of the things that I would love to work with, especially organizations like ACER or Ms. B, who's been in this space for so long, who's ran campaigns, right, is to also have, like, I don't know, a one-on-one politics one-on-one for especially minority, you know, folks who might be interested, you know, to let them, hey, you're entering this space. This is what you should be expecting. This is how you run a successful campaign. This is what you need to do before you even decide to run, you know. And because most of the time, when some of us, you know, enter into the race, it's already too late. You know, politics and winning a campaign starts long before the registration date. You know, you have to learn how this process works, right? And again, for most people who know me, I ran for Senate and I didn't know what I was doing, right? And that allowed me to gain and learn how this there is a game. It's a game. You have to play this game, and you know how you have to know how to play this game. And so, Ms. B, hey, we need to do this one-on-one politics, how to be a candidate, you know, how to run a campaign, because a lot of people, you know, automatically just look at me and go, oh, she made it. Okay. But have no idea.
How about Inner Circle Podcast? I mean, do this, right? We bring you guys here, you and another politician or Ms. B, once a month, you know, and educate our folks. Politics 101. How about we do that once a month? You come on here, educate our folks on politics 101. You know, things that are going on at the state capitol.
Maybe once a quarter. Yeah.
Okay, once a quarter.
This session is about to get very, very busy.
Okay, yeah. I mean, once a quarter is fine. Anything for our people. But as we wrap up here, right, is like my last one or two question for you. What's your long-term vision for Brooklyn Park, your district, and the immigrant population there?
So my long term is very simple. I got into this space to champion a community that is safe and that is thriving in all aspects, whether that's economically, socially, health wise. And that requires participation from all of us. We all have a role to play in this. I don't have a magic wand that I can just, go boop and everything is solved. It's going to take all of us to make this happen. And that's why I'm very intentional about reaching out to key stakeholders. For example, I've been having conversations with the Acer folks in regards to, a collaborative bill that will support our small businesses and our nonprofit organizations that are serving our community. I've been talking to folks at OLM to talk about what, does it look like to have a thriving community center or that has programming that actually cater to that population. I've been talking to our, police chief in terms of how do we support our law enforcement to make sure that they have everything that they need, they equipped to address a very diverse district, right?
Yes.
So these are the conversations that I'm having, and to reach that vision that I have of a safe and thriving community. And again, it's going to take all of you guys to tell me what I'm doing. And also you guys holding me accountable, reaching out to me to make sure that your voices are being heard. And if there's an idea, thank you for asking me that. I was gonna forget this. If there's an idea that our community has, bring it. Okay. Let's work on it. I'm saying that because guess what? I've gotten probably now clocking at 17 proposals, and none of them, until 2 days ago, none of them came from our community. Most of them came from outside of our community. That right there was just a reminder, a clear reminder that there's a lot of work that our community we need to do in understanding how an idea goes from just being an idea to a proposal to a bill to a signed law, right? Again, that's also another class that we can work on right there. But so community, if there's something that you're passionate about, if there's an issue that you want to solve, say it. You might not have the whole entire proposal written out, but let's have a conversation about it, because I want to make sure that when I'm out there and championing all of these ideas that are coming my way, we want to make sure that our community is a part of that conversation. And that's where I need your help to do that, because I can't do all of that work for all of us. It's going to take you guys also to put in the work in order for us to get some of these things through the legislator.
How then are you working with small businesses and local businesses in your area then? Because sometimes local entrepreneurs might be so busy. How are you trying to bring that into the fold?
Good question. So I was talking to the new EDV of Brooklyn Park. That's basically the person who's in charge of our economic space. And the goal for me is to reach out to all of those folks in the different cities that touch my district, to have a list of all of our businesses and their contact information. So he's working on that list for me. And the goal is to have a town hall. The goal is to have a town hall with these businesses to talk about, okay, can we just have the top main issues and kind of have that conversation and then break it down to what are the top priorities? Those are the top priorities that I will take with me to go figure out what bill is already in play. If there's a bill that is already in play, then I'm supporting that bill to make sure that it passes. If there's a situation or a topic that has not been addressed somewhere else, then let's talk about creating a proposal around there and then creating it into a bill and then championing that bill. I'm not promising that all of these things that we're talking about will pass this year, because again, with everything that's going on, and then also it being a budget year, we have to pass a balanced budget. Otherwise, the state will shut down. The government will shut down. I'm not promising that all of this will pass, but at least we'll have that conversation. We'll start having that conversation. And then next legislative cycle, we'll be ready to go, because already the work has been done. And by the way, we are late. Some of my colleagues, they already have their jackets. They call them jackets, ready to go. Me, I'm still collecting ideas. That will show you that we are running late. And so that's why I'm really pushing my brother, please, talk to our community, let them know if they have ideas, bring them, let's have a conversation around it, and then go from there.
Okay, Ms. B, before I ask my last question for the wrap up, anything you want to say to Representative Huda?
No, I just want to say again, thank you for serving. And we will do our best to promote, share the information. This is a space whenever you want to communicate something. If it's not you, your staff, send your team to share and communicate on this platform. We welcome you. And your colleagues, bring your colleagues along if you want to as well. We champion any of the opportunities we can take advantage of to get this information out to our community so that they can stay connected and get involved. So thank you.
And lastly, what legacy do you plan to leave behind as an immigrant? Child come to this country, you have, the American dream to me is alive for you. What legacy do you plan to leave behind for the next generation?
Great question. And before I answer that very good question, there's one thing that I want to propose. Because right now our first immigration clinic is scheduled to be on the 6th. If we can push it sooner, can I recommend? Because I have a big network of folks that I can reach out to. Maybe we can get an immigration lawyer, and you guys can put it next week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if we can do that. Yeah, definitely. Because we definitely want to get those information out to the community. And that's something, as I said, right? I mean, since Monday, right, there's been so much going on. A lot of news affect the immigrant community. And here, our niche, we focus on our immigrant community, we focus on our community. So definitely, if we can get an immigrant lawyer to your contacts, that would be good for us.
Perfect. So my action point leaving here tonight is to make sure that we get an expert to come. And maybe I'll talk to a couple of people because I think it'll be good to have an immigrant lawyer. And then also I'll talk to the chief from Brooklyn Center, and he can also kind of, bridge that gap and kind of address some of those concerns when it comes to our community. At least we'll start having that conversation there instead of waiting until the 6th.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, let's do that. Yeah. Let's work on that. That's great.
Spoken like a true organizer. A call to action at the end of the conversation.
That's great.
Miss B, this is from Miss B. She's like, I don't never leave a meeting. I remember her like 2 years ago. I never leave a meeting without an action point. So I always you.
Okay. That's good.
So, to answer your question, the legacy that I want to leave behind is a legacy that creates an environment where others will come in and others will have an easier path than I did. The legacy that I want to leave behind is a legacy where somebody will look back and say, if it wasn't for Huda, that thing wouldn't have, passed or that resource wouldn't have come to our community. I want to leave a legacy that speaks volume about being a servant leader. And to me, I would care less about the title, but making sure that, somebody's life have been touched for the better. Somebody can sit here and say, yes, I made the right decision by voting for Huda because she fought for our community. She went out of her way and sacrificed herself to make sure that our community is safe and is thriving. And if I could do that, if one person can say that about, me and this role, I think I would, leave this space knowing that I made an impact and hopefully a positive impact in our community.
Well, thanks so much, for accepting our invitation. You're very accessible, to see, local leaders, political leaders being so accessible, here at Inner Cycle Podcast. We really appreciate you. It's the second time appearing here. We'll look to more. We're looking forward to working with you more, to bringing you here. She said maybe that once a quarter, right? Our politics, have a one-on-one politics and educate our folks. But it's been great talking to you. The information you provided. Hopefully, we can work together to bring an immigration lawyer on here or someone to continue to educate our folks. Because there's a lot of fear out there, a lot of misinformation, and so much going on. So we really, really appreciate you tonight for sharing your time with us, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Continue having this conversation. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing to get the word out, because again, it's going to take all of us to figure this out, to get through this. And so thank you. And I will pass that information to you as soon as I get it. I'm actually looking through my business cards. So because right now, we'll forget. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
So join the conversation, let's set the tone.